Hello, hello. It is time for some flarp. Nice. I want to talk about resistance in this video. But before I get started, I just wanted to mention that I love the perfume by Lancôme called Trésor Midnight Rose. Wished I could share that with you. It is heavenly. It's like a root beer, a rose root beer. That's what it smells like. It's absolutely delicious. Because I also have root beer as a single note. It's all synthetic, of course, but I love it. It smells great. The root beer smell by itself, the single note, was a little bit, it was nice, but kind of a little bit, I don't know. I don't know, it wasn't rounded. And it wasn't very rounded. So I don't know how else to explain it. So I added gourmet French vanilla into it, and then it became the real root beer. Ha! The real delicious thing. And then I had this one on too, and then I realized, oh my gosh, Midnight Rose. It does have some root beer elements in it as well. Absolutely love it. It's what makes me well, those perfume oils. I used to spend a lot of money on therapy in the past. So if I had just spent that on perfume oils instead, would have been better. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of sessions weren't going anywhere. But overall, I'm glad that I did attend these many sessions were very helpful for me. So, but then we move forward, from there, because a lot of sessions were not going anywhere because the approach is lopsided. So I keep telling people on the internet that we need to. Yes, I am. Yeah, your box did not come. You must have ordered that from a third-party seller. You better check the tracking. Okay. That should have come a long time ago. Okay. That always completely takes me off any kind of train of thought. So, but whatever. So I want to talk about resistance and what we can do to heal that, to heal resistance, to heal ourselves from resistance. Because resistance, inner state of resistance, that is what causes all problems. That's what causes the problem. That's what stops brains from seeing clearly and from seeing everything and from recognizing oneself, one's own issues, problems, mistakes, and from making new connections, neuronal connections that are creative, that are in the creative flow, that can move things way forward towards paradise, way forward. So I know that we can create a paradise. I know that for sure. I know that for absolute certain. The solutions are all there. It's also what Esther Hicks says. You know, I always say Esther Hicks, I don't say Abraham. I don't like the name Abraham. That was a bad name picking, Abraham. My God. But yeah, so that's why I say Esther Hicks only, but Esther Hicks is channeling. She channels what she calls Abraham, but it's has nothing to do with the Bible or any of these or Abrahamic religions. So yeah, no, that those are very advanced extraterrestrials that she channels. And I would never call. I'm not gonna call them Abraham. Sorry, I'm not on board with that. I'm not gonna do it. So I'm gonna call them the blue ETs. Okay, so she channels blue ETs, and it is amazing that I wonder if she ever said that they're blue. But I see them as blue. I don't know. I see she has a blue aura, and that whole thing when she channels them, that has a blue aura. So because I perceive auras, it's an energetic thing. We put that into colors, but it's beyond color. We give that a color, but it's really beyond color. It's just what comes closest to our mind in terms of energy, to explain an energy that is beyond our sense perception. But I'll give this a very deep blue color. So almost, into the indigo direction. So that's also interesting that that they came up with that word indigo. Indigo. So it's what I am. I'm an indigo. I'm on that level right now. So, but there are many people that are above that level already, and it's a lot of people that are above that level that are not even. Many are not famous. Many are not seen. They work more behind the scenes. Some of them are in the limelight, but the general public doesn't recognize them as that. So that's basically the stagnator soul, which is most people. They don't recognize when someone is an angel soul. They think that they only recognize someone for whatever, external pleasure qualities. So some angel souls use those in order to become famous. That's coming in through the back door in order to bring message across to the world. So because the stagnator can only recognize these external stimuli of beauty and sexual appeal and those kind of things, what they put on a pedestal is someone with just a very massively inflated ego. That's what they put on a pedestal. And sometimes there's an angel soul coming through the back door pretending to be that. That's very interesting also. You know, an angel soul, in order to help, pretending to be a massive ego in order to get elected and then doing good. That's in the case of Donald Trump. A lot of people will not agree because they don't look all the way around the stage. They look like halfway around the stage, and there's a broom standing there, and they don't go all the way around and see that the real picture there. And so the real picture is the angel that cleans everything up, that cleans up the house, not just with the broom, not just the toilets, not just the floor, but everything, the niches of the corruption, gradually, very gradually, the way it naturally offers itself, cleaning it up, one thing at a time, without the stagnators coming and throwing him out. But they're always looking. What if he turns green? So they're already trying to figure out how to get him out, because they are terrified that he might turn green. So, because some of them know that that is who he is. Most people don't know it. So this is all a tricky thing. It's like, it's a, the US government is set up by the corporate agenda, and everything is just a facade. So someone who wants to help has to actually come in as a bad person and pretend to be a bad person in order to get in. You can't get in unless you have some bad person behavior to show. Yeah. So they don't want good people in there. So now they see that Donald Trump is very caring. He saved us from a third world war. Okay. He talks business. He doesn't take bullshit from anyone. He doesn't cower down to anyone. So now they're getting really scared that, oh, he might go green. And that would undermine the corruption of ExxonMobil and Lockheed Martin. So he might outlaw active sonar, which is killing the whales brutally. He might. So when the opportunity arises, when the air is clear for it. So I believe it. I believe it's going to happen, and I wish deeply for it. So, but it's very difficult, you know, even if you're a Democrat and you have the environmental points under your feet, you know, embedded into the platform, even then, you know, you see how difficult it is to get these things fought through. You know, look at Bill Clinton. His hair became white during his administration because he did everything he could to save the environment and to pave the way for protecting the forests and the whales and everything. And you see how much resistance and how much sabotage came flying at him how much of a hard time they gave this man, this angel soul. So, and they made it very difficult for him. So for Donald Trump, this task is even more difficult. And now he even has to maneuver through a platform that is not even serving anyone. The Republican platform has to even conquer and maneuver and defy that on top of it. So that doesn't even help at all, the platform. So Bill Clinton at least had the platform that was okay with those points. So, but the corporate agenda still threw obstacles after obstacles into it. So now for Donald Trump, it's like he doesn't have the platform on his side. He doesn't have the other people on his side. There's a mosquito. And he doesn't have anyone really on his side. Very few people. And then he has some people on his side that are thinking that he is the big macho ego. And they like him for that. While that's just a masquerade. That's the back door he came in through. So it's not the real image. So, but there's one thing that is true about him. He stands strong and he doesn't take bullshit from anyone. He's not gonna let anyone intimidate him or peer pressure him. He doesn't care what people think. He does what's necessary to do. Everything, all of this ties into that subject, resistance. So the majority of humans are in massive resistance to kindness, compassion, and making the world a paradise. They are prone and bound to degrading things. That's what it's like. It's not just like a toddler who is about to fall against the table and throwing a glass of water on the floor. No, it's like a toddler that is attracted to, throwing the table down deliberately, the glass and everything, and breaking everything. A big adult toddler. Baby toddler would never do this. So, an adult toddler, like the gravity of destruction almost. That's what I see in the adult toddler, the stagnator soul. Gravitating towards destruction. That's what I see in humans. Not just accident prone, but like attracted to accidents, attracted to disaster, self-sabotage, destruction of everything, blind faith and worship of huge egos. That's what I see. It's a pity. It is a pity. And I don't know what to do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. And this is my resistance that comes in, because of course I'm in resistance against this destruction. That's just what the dog mother does. A real dog mother, a real loving mother is against the destruction and will do anything she can to protect life on Earth. Oh, there's a recluse. A real big one. So Paul has to come with the vacuum cleaner, a very large recluse. Yes, in the corner. So, yeah. Resistance. I'm learning a lot about resistance. What is resistance? When you care about things, of course you go into resistance towards that what is destructive. So what now comes now is this is how what we have to figure out now in this, instead of becoming militant, so which a lot of people do, that doesn't help anything. Instead of becoming militant and going in this extreme clinging and resistance mode, we have to go into meditation instead. And I have to do it too. I have to sit down and I have to breathe. Breathe through the entire body. And I have to, in that moment, in that moment, when things are not in an emergency, then you can do the meditation. And in that moment of meditating, you let go of the clinging and the resistance. It seems for my husband, it seems impossible for him to do. He can't do it. Can't do it. So it's very difficult to do. But I get it. I totally understand. Okay. In that moment of meditation, just like when you go to sleep, you have to give up the resistance, If you can't give it up, the resistance, there's no way your brain, your body will fall asleep. There's no way this can be accomplished. That's also why so many people have sleeping problems. So many people, I see it in the chat rooms. So many people that are tormented on the inside, psychologically. What is that? That's resistance. It's just a progressed state of resistance. It becomes more and more progressed and convoluted, and then it becomes a state of resistance of the resistance of the resistance. And then there's no way someone can sleep like this. So we have to unravel this. We have to go into meditation, and it feels funny in the solar plexus. It feels really strange. It feels like, ooh, like, oh my God. It almost feels like a void. Because what do we do when we go when we go out of the resistance? Then there's this resistance that's in that moment, it falls away, and then we feel like, oh my gosh, we need to grapple for something to hold on to, right? Because the resistance was kind of like something we held onto. The whole thing is that this grabbing and attachment attachment is resistance. We let go, we feel like, oh my gosh, it feels like a void. What am I gonna do now? I'm out of resistance. Or, some people will be afraid of losing their identity. Those are the ones with the biggest resistance. Resistance can drive people to become psychopaths. So it's all about resistance. Jealousy is resistance. A mother being jealous of their daughters. It's resistance. If she sat down in meditation but they are not going to, because they're also keeping each other in that drive. Hollywood keeps everyone in that drive. People keep each other in it. One woman says, oh, you better go to the plastic surgeon. You don't want to get rejected. See, that's how they're keeping each other in that drive of destruction. That's just one example out of billions. Or my mother saying to me, you better go back to school. The time is running out. Time is running. Time. Okay. Time is running. Okay. Let it run. I have time. I sit down and I allow that time to run. And I allow my brain to snap out of time and time pressure. So, yeah, that's pretty cool to do that. If I'm around a lot of people, it instantly causes me stress. Their energy by itself. I go shopping, I see this. It's like a dark cloud of stress energy in that room. It's overwhelming, when we were between dogs, sometimes we went shopping together. I'm not gonna do this anymore because my husband spends a lot of time in the store. But we've been shopping together a couple of times in between dogs. And I'd be so overwhelmed, also from the grief, of course, but also because of this stress energy that people are radiating out. And I would have to go, Paul, you're gonna have to hold my hand now, because I don't know if I can make it out alive out of the store. I'm gonna pass out. And he'd feel very awkward, but he'll hold my hand, and he'll probably be thinking, now they're thinking we are together. And what if they think that? And then they think I have bad taste in women and all these things, And but he's kind enough to hold my hand as long as I needed it. And then my tears come because of the comforting. And I almost sometimes it's borders an act out. It has bordered an act out, but I catch myself right away when I feel like I want other people to see that I'm crying, or I want other people to hear what I'm saying, that I'm overwhelmed from all of these people. Then I have switched over to act out. Then I've switched over to like self-pity act out. See how I'm suffering, how you made me suffer. I see all of this in myself. I see it in other people too. So I immediately stop myself when that happens. But then I just stand there and he's holding my hand, my tears flow, And after a few moments, not even 2 minutes, then I can collect myself a little bit. That calms down my mind enough to grapple myself together and pay for my groceries and get back into the van. So sometimes when when we have a dog, one is always waiting with the dog because dogs have separation anxiety, and it's not a mental illness or anything. This is a natural thing that a living being feels when they feel like they're at the mercy to this human world, and they're alone in the car. I sit in extreme tension and fear for every dog alone in the car. I can't stand it. I've already opened car doors and let dogs out. And if I have to, I will smash a window when when it's hot, when it's too hot. And it is legal now in California. So I don't know about Nevada. It should be legal there for sure. So, but yeah, resistance and becoming aware when it's necessary to act. What we can't become aware when it's necessary to act if we are in a state of resistance of ego. Okay, so that can be also the state of resistance of the dog mother, the real mother, that has love, of course. So those are different types of resistance. They come from different motives. When the resistance comes from the ego, then the brain is not clear to see the other living being, okay, for what he needs and all of this. So that's pretty clear. That is obvious what's going on in the world. And when the dog mother is in a state of resistance towards, the dangers that are coming at us, then of course we have to act. That's when we have to act to protect. But that too can become a state of resistance that could become a hindrance. Like when we're too afraid, then we might not be thinking clearly, and then we might not be paving the way for real healing and protection and safety to come in. So if I'm in too much of a panic out of my dog mother instinct, the love instinct, the real love, I'm in too much of a panic, then I might do something that is not thought through. Like, I don't know. I don't have an example right now. I don't know what example to use. Like, if I would be overprotective, and in that moment that happens, and I might be unfair to someone. So, like, for example, if someone sees a homeless person who is dirty or who has a flea-ridden dog, then the protective bear mother will say, "Oh no, I can't go near them because then the fleas will jump over and all of this." But that homeless person has a warm smile and wanted to connect. So that would be a situation like this where our protective instinct might not be beneficial for making the world a better place. So we have to weigh these things out. We have to. It comes moments where we have to weigh it off. So, and these situations have occurred. So I have ended up going over and socializing a little bit. I care. I can't just walk away like this and shun someone away. I just can't do it. And even if it's a really dirty, flea-ridden homeless person with a flea-ridden dog. So, or a real dirty person with dirty hands. There was a point where my husband one time had to say to a woman, "I'm sorry, but you have to wash your hands first before you can pet my dog." I mean, her hands were really dirty. And so, and one should be honest about this, and that I think that's fair to ask from someone. Or to say, "I'm sorry, I can't stand cigarette smoke. You have to turn that off. Or you have to walk away." I think that's fair to ask from people. Okay. We need to stand up for our boundaries. We need to stand up for our health. It's very important. So, but if there's a potential for that homeless person's dog to have fleas, I mean, the potential is like 99.9999%. So, and the homeless person just wants to say something. So there could be a situation where you go, "Okay, let me go over and let me talk to him and see what he's asking or what he wants to say." And sometimes they just want to say something completely crazy because some of these people are psychotic. And then I listen and I feel sorry for them. I know what they're going through. And then we go home and the fleas have jumped over, and then I go, "Okay, now we deal with this the best way possible." I put some diatomaceous earth on him and I massage that in, that powder. And that's wonderful. It doesn't hurt anyone, but it gets rid of all fleas and eggs. So, and yeah, you gotta repeat it then after a week, and then it gets rid of all fleas. So yeah, it's just an example, out of many examples. So where you have a border situation where you have to weigh it off, what to do. Just to be like, "Oh, I guess I'm only gonna protect my family and the heck with everyone else." So that is not gonna make the world a better place. So there comes a moment where we reach that threshold where we want to be there also for someone else. And my love goes out to all beings, and I want to help. And I helped this one guy. I gave him. We saw him again at the beach, who gave us fleas. I gave him a jar of diatomaceous earth to apply to his dogs, but he's such a tightwad that he used that jar, and then he wouldn't buy himself that 50-pound bag. That is the best deal there is. He wouldn't do it. So at that point we decided, okay, then we cannot meet with him again, and we cannot go for a walk with him again. So that's where we have to draw the line then. So you help to a certain degree. If they are not willing to, for whatever psychological reason, that's not our problem. That's when we have to protect ourselves. So there are so many of those types of bridge threshold situations, so many examples that, the details in the example always. It's hard for people to understand things that are just talked about in a very abstract, in a very generalized way, in a very, pictogram-like way, or just in a schematic type of way, or abstract words. So it's not helping a lot of people. Some people can understand it, but a lot of people, they need concrete examples of what I'm talking about when I talk about resistance. The resistance, that's a mental state. Someone who is like this one guy, that a neighbor we had once, who, I waved to him over the fence, and he had this real red, angry face and looked at me with hatred. And I never did anything wrong. I was always friendly. So that's a state of resistance. So he's probably coming up with all kinds of interpretations about us. So because we don't fit exactly his type of people, in the way we are dressed, and the way we are, and the kind of car we drive. At that time we had the Toyota Prius. That's all. That was a red flag for a lot of people, although it became more and more popular because people saved a lot of money on gas. It had a double benefit. So it even benefited the ego to some degrees. Once that had tipped over in benefit over the ego that says, I don't buy that, I'm a Republican or something. So, or that's they call that devil. I mean, it's like now it's starting to slowly fade away because it does benefit, the budget. So then at some point they go, right, it benefits my bank account. All right, it's not so demonic after all. So, but for a long time, the oil industry, they have, I think through the talk radio, I think that's how it got into the preachers' brains. Republican talk radio. So, which a lot of people listen to, even Mormons and other types that will turn on the radio if they're allowed to from their religion. So then they get brainwashed massively through talk radio, rural talk radio. The oil, owned by the oil, brought to you by Lockheed Martin and ExxonMobil. That's basically what it is. It's like owned by it, paid for, like extra paid for. Like you give that propaganda, we give you $1 million. That's how it works. So, to be really concrete, so that it cannot be misunderstood by anyone. This is how it works. And then brought to you into your brain, and people will take the bait, hook, line, and sinker, and go like, yeah, this is evil. Yes, oh yes, Satan. It's like, sometimes I really think, man, are people retarded or something? But then, even some people that seem to be functioning brain-wise in their jobs, but then on that level, they completely go into some kind of trance in their brain. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know. And I think this is all part of resistance. This is the state of resistance, the ego, that the self-identification with the certain group of people, with a certain society, with a certain religion, and that is then ruthlessly abused by someone who makes money with that. And people don't understand that they have been pawned. They don't understand it. They don't seem to understand. That's why I say, my goodness sakes, you need to question these things. Question it. When you hear someone rant and rave militant style on talk radio, question this person, please. Oh my goodness. What is his motive? Was he paid for this? Is he believing this? Is he identified? His whole persona is identified with this kind of style and thought and peer pressure and all of this. There are con artists that do believe their own lies. It becomes an identity after all, and in the end, they become furious if truth comes in and undermines that. People who are identified with whatever, they become insane. They become insanely angry. They become psychopaths if their lies become exposed, if their false foundation they're standing on is pulled out from under their feet.